You are listening to the Jboy Show, your number one source for Auburn and the SEC.
My goal was to run through his soul and grab his heart when I run through his soul.
Kurt, Nate, Coach Dab. Those are memories. I think we've established ourselves as, I think, the premier conference in college football.
Now, the SEC is better at the top. It's better in the middle.
The Southeastern Conference remains the premier conference.
Takes the snap. Looking for the receiver. He's got Lutz and Kirkland. Touchdown, Auburn!
When you think about it, it's always been the SEC and everybody else trying to catch it.
I think this is probably the best league from a competitive venue standpoint.
Most capable teams. You just look at those programs, the way they recruit, how they invest.
Snap to Burrow. 3 steps. Fires. Back corner of the end zone. Over the shoulder catch. Did he hold on? He did. Justin Jefferson. Touchdown, Tiger.
And now, your host, Jboy.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of the Jboy Show. Very personally excited about the guest we have today. It's a woman that has done so much. It's incredible. She was a star at Auburn University playing basketball, was a third-round pick in the WNBA to the Sacramento Monarchs. She's been in a Walt Disney movie, started her own video and graphic company, has a PhD, and also teaches at the business school in Auburn. I'm not talking about Wonder Woman. This is Dr.Chantel Tremitiere. Doctor, thank you so much.
No problem. I'm excited to be here, Jake. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, no problem. And I know we're going to have a lot of fun. I want to get right into it. And I do want to talk about kind of the trick shot stuff first, because I know a lot of our audience, if not all of our audience, has seen, your kind of viral sensation of you just going out there and hitting shots from crazy distances. Now, I heard a rumor that it started in a Dick's Sporting Goods. Is that where it started?
Okay, it didn't really start in there. I think that it actually that's the one that went bigger. But it actually started in the driveway of my niece's house, and I had always I trained kids here in Auburn, and after every session, I would let them know, look, let's shoot from the 3-point line, and if you make it, your next session is free if you make it before me. And so I never lost except once, right before the pandemic. I haven't been able to make good on that one yet. But so then, my nieces, I was at their house, and, at the time, 15-year-old kids, and you should do TikTok. And so I did, and I did a couple half-court shots, just a regular half-court, and some young men came on and basically we're like, you can't make it with the men's ball. And these are camera tricks and stuff like that. And so, other commenters started saying back to them, like, don't come after Auntie like that. Don't come after. And so I was like, okay, so this is a persona that's being built. So I changed my name to Auntie, and I said, you know what? I'm going to act like their auntie, and I'm going to come back at them.
I love it.
And so I started talking a little trash, and actually, the one that was bigger before that was, I came outside in my robe and my hairpiece. I mean, not hairpiece, hairnet, because I was bleaching my hair, and made a shot there, and then, just took off. And then the one in Dick's Sporting Goods, we had talked to the manager before then, and I wanted to recreate, somebody challenging me inside a store, and I didn't know it was gonna get that big.
It got huge. I mean, were you just like, and I know you said you didn't expect it to get that big, but I'm sure the first couple days when it did get that big were kind of a whirlwind for you, just kind of coming out of nowhere.
Right. I was, when I was in the WNBA, they prepared us for this kind of thing. However, you know it's coming. This kind of caught me off guard. And, when you're getting ESPN and World Star and House of Highlights and, NBC Sports calling, and hitting me in my DMs, it got a little crazy there for a minute.
Yeah, it's that's awesome, and again, it's something that's kind of organic, which is really cool. But you mentioned the WNBA, and that's a great segue. You were a terrific basketball player. Can you talk about especially when you played and with how, as far as the WNBA has come, especially even nowadays, where you have household names. I can tell you 5 off the top of my head. Yeah, I love watching Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi and all them play. It's fun to watch. Can you talk about just how the game has grown since you played in the league and kind of where you see it at now?
Sure. One of the best things, it's easy for us, when the year that the league started, because it was new and the NBA, backed us. And I mean, they still do. They do a great job of that. But, it was new and, we were playing in front of 17,000 people a night and they were excited to see, Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper, Lisa Leslie. But we all knew that it wouldn't be successful unless we made it to where it could last.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build for the future. And these women today, Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Sue Bird, these young ladies today, and Sabrina Ionescu is probably going to take it another 15 years. That's
the Oregon guard, correct? Yeah.
Yep. And, I feel like if, I think some things probably need to change. I think that, I don't think, to me, it's not even about the equal pay and stuff like that. I think they need equal marketing.
Yeah.
As the men. The men, the NBA players, you see these crazy commercials and things like that for sneakers and whatever. And with the women, if you notice, it's all about customizing, them getting customized shoes, but their customized shoes are always the men's shoes.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Imagine the marketing that could happen if you made a shoe that was made for both men and women, and it was the Ionescu or whatever, and then you had, a Damian Lillard or I mean, not Damian because he wears Adidas, but Russell Westbrook or God forbid a LeBron James customizing an Ionescu shoe.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, there's a whole, like you said, there's a whole lane for it, and whoever does that, I mean, is going to be very well off, I guess we could say.
Absolutely.
Just shocks me that hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will eventually, but like you said, I think it's a great point because marketing lends to money. Obviously, those are two things that go hand in hand, and that's something where. Again, once it does happen, I think you will see a bigger source of revenue for the WNBA, and that way, the women can start having their own brands, like you're talking about, where they're almost, just as big. And because again, you were part of a wave that, goodness, when it started the WNBA, it probably inspired millions of little girls to be able, to say, hey, I can be a pro basketball player. When you look back on that, is that something that at the time you kind of knew, or now that you look back, you're like, wow, that I didn't realize that 1 year could have that much of effect on this big of a group of women?
Well, I think for me, at least, it was always about the kids.
Yeah.
And you always try to, not just on the basketball court, but, I try to live my life that, that people see me as a role model, and you never know who's looking and you never know who's watching. And so you always have to act in that kind of manner. And that's kind of how I've pointed my moral compass in that direction, hoping that kids would watch. And so, to be honest, if I wasn't a Lisa Leslie, I wasn't a Cheryl Swoops or things like that.
That's a tough comp. Those are Mount Rushmore for sure.
Absolutely. But I know that if I inspire at least one kid to say, you know what, I want to be a WNBA player because I saw, Tremitiere play, then I know I did my job.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And again, those are the things that last. I mean, that's really the good stuff. And talking about, kind of your career and what you've done. So you get done playing and you get into acting, and you're in a Walt Disney movie, a Double Team. Can you talk about just kind of what that transition was like going from, professional athlete to acting in a legitimate movie?
Well, to be honest, and not many people knew about this, but growing up, that's all I wanted to be. I didn't even want to be a basketball player. I wanted to be an actress.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to Temple, and they offered me to come and come on campus for an official visit. And, you know, a week beforehand, I was playing in a district championship, semifinal, and my birth mother showed up that morning, kind of shook me. I had a horrible game, and that evening, Temple told me they didn't want me anymore.
Wow.
So, you know, then Auburn, it was late in the game, and fortunately Auburn, my mom contacted Auburn. They came and watched me play, and I went down to campus, and I thought that I would be able to. They had a great theater department, and I thought that I would be able to, you know, study theater at Auburn, and there's my dream, and play basketball and be there for free. But when we got on campus, it turned out that the acting classes were in the afternoon, and so was practice. Wow. And so
that's tough.
We wasn't giving up practice.
No.
So it was a tough transition for me, but you know, I think that everything worked out for the best.
Definitely. And it's so cool. And again, you get to do, you know, two things that you enjoy. It sounds to me like you love performing. It's just kind of in your blood and in your nature. And I can even tell when I'm watching your trick shot videos, you know, you're really good with the camera. You know what to do and know what to say. But so then you start your own company, Blank Minds, video and graphic. What kind of pulled you in that direction? And, you know, that's a big deal and that's a big venture. What kind of made you pull the trigger on that?
Well, I've always kind of embraced my creative side, and I've always seen myself as a creative person. But I didn't want to be limited by anything or anyone, and so you know, I said, let me name my company Blank, and that way I could do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. And so, you know, I did that, and I had some really good people with me, and it, you know, it kind of took off.
Yeah. And again, it's something that I believe you started in 2005, correct?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. That's awesome. So y'all, you know, been around 15 years and now kind of looking where you're at now, you know, you also teach at the business school for the university. I look at all these things and I look at your resume, Doctor, and the first question that pops up to me is, did you always want to be this versatile? Like, you know, I know you said you grew up, you wanted to be an actress and then obviously, you know, playing basketball, but, you know, somebody that can do all these type things, did you just, you know, was it something that just kind of naturally, organically happened? Or you were like, I want to be able to do this, and that, and you did it?
Well, you know, I think that I've always lived by the saying that the funniest thing about life is none of us get out of it alive. So, you know, I figured that I was going to do anything and everything that I set my mind to and that I wanted to do and I was passionate about doing before I get up on out of here. And right now, my age, you know, I'm closer to the grave than I am to the womb.
Hey, you're still looking good, though, Doc. You're still looking good. I promise.
I appreciate it. But, you know, I just think that you know, there's a lot of things that I've wanted to do and instead of, you know, they say, you know, live outside the box or whatever, I've always wanted to create my own box.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think I'm doing. And you know, right now it's just having fun, you know, shooting videos and we'll see where my next chapter goes.
Definitely. I'm excited. I mean, with this resume, who knows? You may be the next president or something. I don't know. It's going to be good.
Oh, I don't know. That's one thing I promise you. I'm not going to get into politics.
Oh, you know, believe me either.
Yeah, that's
me
too
either.
much for me.
Exactly.
You got to lie too much for that.
I'm too. I think I'm too honest for that.
Right.
You know, but you know. So I want to talk about Auburn's women's basketball program for a second. And you know, with Coach Flo, they've had success. You know, they've had to rebuild. They've had some bumps in the road. What do you think about where the program is going? And what do you see, you know, right now, just from the ability standpoint that you're able to watch?
You know, Coach Flo and I are really good friends. Yeah. And you know, it's been tough to watch her have to go through some of the things that she's gone through. You know, a lot of attrition in the program, which no coach wants.
No,
and no coach expects.
Yeah, it happens.
And you know, I think, you know, she's always been defensive minded, and you know, she's a great defensive mind. You know, she gets after it, and you know, I think maybe over the last 2 years, for whatever reason, that focus has shifted to let's get some offensive players who can score.
Yeah. And
that's fine. You know, you want players who can score, but if the other team's scoring more than they're scoring, then it doesn't matter anyway.
That's exactly right.
I think that she's kind of getting back to, look, we're going to play defense.
Yeah.
And I want some defensive players in here who can play. And so she's got some dogs in here that are coming in this year. And I think, she's excited about this year. Hopefully they can play.
Yeah.
But she's excited. And I think it's going to turn around. For the kind of success that we had when we were here, it's tough to see anybody, go through.
Y'all were dominant.
Some losses.
Y'all were dominant.
Oh, thank you. So, and it's tough, and we don't ever expect them to be like that, but you want them to be.
Yeah.
But, I think she's going to turn it around, and I'm looking forward to remaining a spectator and watching that process.
Exactly. And last question, Doctor, before I let you go, I know you're busy. How does, because you've played it, you've seen it, how does the success of, obviously you have a women's program and a men's program. Do you feel like those two can feed off each other, using, and I use the example, obviously the men make it to the Final Four. Does that help, the women's, because it's the same sport, does it help the women's basketball team when they go in there, and vice versa, if the women make the Final Four? Does that happen, or are they just really that separate?
It depends. I know when we were playing, the women's and men's team were really close.
Yeah.
And they were really, really supportive of us. And there wasn't any, y'all in the Final Four, we didn't make it, we hate none. I mean, it was none of that.
Yeah.
And I think if it stays like that, I think if they can get to the point, and it starts with Coach Pearl and Coach Flo, they have to show that they're united. They have to show that, that Auburn basketball as a whole encompasses both the men's and women's programs. And I think that, Bruce obviously has had a little bit more success over the past couple of years, well-deserved. I think it's him pulling, reaching back and saying, come on, women, I'm going to pull y'all up.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be Coach Flo saying, I accept that and we're going to ride your wave. I think they're only as separate as they make it or as the teams make it.
Yeah. And again, if you watch, especially, and you talked about it earlier, watching Auburn's women's play, I love the style, that pressing style that they play, and it causes a ton of problems, when it's working. It's just kind of like you talked about, just getting the personnel in there. But Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're super busy. I would love to have you back on as we get closer to this season that I hope that we're going to have. Your story's amazing. Just an unbelievable representation of Auburn University. And please tell everybody, if you want them to, where they can find you and see everything that you're doing.
Oh, definitely. Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no problem.
It's always good to talk to Auburn folk and people who appreciate the program and things like that. I'm going to continue to have fun. And like I tell everybody, I know this is bigger than me and these shots are great, but if at the end of the day, what's going on in our world, the pandemic and some of the social injustices going on, I think if they can watch me or what I do for a minute, for 60 seconds and forget about that and just smile for that long, then I'm doing my job. So they can hit me up on TikTok at Auntie Chantel or Facebook at Chantel Tremitiere, Instagram at Chantel Trem, and come have fun and say War Eagle to me, and I'll say it back.
All right. Well, Doctor, thank you so much. Can't wait to have you on again. And everybody make sure you go check that out. And I hope you have a great rest of the weekend and enjoy hopefully some nice weather coming.
I appreciate it. You too. Thank you again for having me.
No problem. Talk soon.
All right.
And that was Dr.Chantel Tremitiere, former star women's basketball player at Auburn, played in the WNBA. Has done a ton of stuff, like I told you guys. Very excited. Our first female on the show. Very knowledgeable. I thought it was really good insight she gave us about kind of how the programs feed off each other. And, that's something that it should be looked at by one program because it's under one banner, obviously, and it's the same sport. So very interested to see where that goes. Very interested to see where her trick shot deal goes. Like she said, got picked up by ESPN, World Star, NBC Sports. But anyways, again, thank you guys so much for joining us for another big week. I really want to thank the guests that we had. But again, you guys make this show go, and it's just fun for me to be able to do this. And it's only getting better. It's only getting bigger. We'll have an announcement for this next week of guests I think you're going to like. and we'll make that announcement on Sunday. But remember, you can find us on Twitter at The Jboy Show, on Instagram at The Jboy Show. You can find us on YouTube. It's The Jboy Show. Anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, doesn't matter. Come and find us. We're growing like crazy. Tell your friends. It's been another edition of The Jboy Show. And remember, you can text JBOY to 90407 and you can get prediction alerts first. But remember, Jboy, it's another edition, and Jboy is going, gone.